Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Sorry for the slow start this morning. We had a little technical issues getting going here, but I think we've worked them out and we are good to go.
I think we're good to go. Welcome back, Mike. It's been a little.
Been a bit of time. We did a little bit of recording last week, so we were out recording. We are officially back in the seat again, doing live episodes. So we're jumping right in. We have a number of news items today we're just going to kind of go through two blog posts. I guess these are the two main blog posts. There's one from the Power BI release summary in June. That was kind of early released in June, around June 9th. And then we're also going to go through some of our favorite features from the Fabric release, June 2025, which is roughly, they released the blog in June. So the June blog in Fabric comes out much later. Their cycle is like the end of the month when they release the blogs. So it's June 25th is the most recent release date for the Fabric items. All right, Tommy, give us a couple news items.
Well, there's been a few that have actually just come out that actually make this really cool. So first off, and actually an update to some Fabric notebooks with inline code completion. So there's been a lot going on with Copilot, AI, and our dear beloved notebooks. One of them is really just the ability to make Copilot comprehensive throughout Copilot, very much like if you've ever used VS Code or an IDE and you get that auto suggest.
Yep.
So I wondered why this took so dang long, because this seemed like should have been there from the get-go. It's very hard to go through the chat, but I love me some auto suggest.
I think this is actually, so let me kind of comment on this one, because I really think this is it's a powerful feature. One of the things I've really been grokking with here recently is just trying to understanding, like, where's the best place to use copilots? Where do they best serve their purpose? And by far, I think long and away at the front of this is the ability for the AI to understand every single line of code, or have a larger knowledge base around what code is written and how to use it. And the reason I give this example here is I've had a number of projects where I've been working in a notebook, and I know I wanted to do some data transformation. I think Tommy, you would agree. At the end of the day, if we sit back and just look at going, hey, we have a whole bunch of notebooks and a whole bunch of items that we have to data shape. We know what we want the data to do. We want to shape the data to transform and look this certain way. And you can communicate in English what you want it to do. The challenge becomes, how do you get the code written to do the production? And I saw a couple comments, I think it was this last week on Twitter. Someone was saying, I really love notebook experiences. And by the way, a notebook experience paired with a copilot means I now have a really rich intern who knows all the code. It knows none of my business logic, so they don't know what I want to do with the code, but they have all the code and they know everything. And what do you think, Tommy? What's your thoughts on this? How do you interact, like when you're writing code either in a notebook or in VS Code? What does your interaction look like when you're using a copilot or some kind of agent to help you write code?
So honestly, I'll use a few things depending on which auto suggest I have, but I'll actually write comments in the code itself to say what I'm trying to do. Because some of the features, they may not have that like inline chat like directly in that code block. So I'll actually write in the comments, hey, I'm actually trying to do this. This is what this is doing. And the auto suggest actually will learn from the comments. But a lot of times I start with the chat. I start with kind of like overall what I want to do with a notebook or a project.
Sure.
And then we'll go from there. And then I ask it to break it down into cell blocks. But generally speaking, I always start with, hey, I am wanting to accomplish this. The data is here. The transformations are going to be this. What's the best way to do this? And then we are on our way. But this is huge.
Let me also go in here a little bit as well. Inside VS Code, so I'm very happy to start seeing some of these VS Code-like features coming over to notebooks inside Fabric. I think VS Code has got a very robust agent. I really like how they've handled using agents inside VS Code. Also, in VS Code, you have the ability of picking multiple different agents. It doesn't have to be just one agent. You can pick like Claude. You can pick Grok if you have the API keys. You can pick GPT Mini. Or ChatGPT Mini 03 and all kinds of other things. So I really like that the richness of like there's there's always right now I feel like the ground is shifting so fast that you need a tool that's more nimble, right? It can do a lot of different things. So I'm very excited about this inline code completion. I will give people kind of a note here, a caution. Like every time you're prompting Copilot, you're using some little bit of CU in the background. For you as a developer, that might make sense. But also, if you are using Microsoft Edge, there is a Copilot button that lives on the far right-hand side of the screen, and you can use that. Some organizations are even now locking down. You can only use Copilot because that's a Microsoft certified one. They don't want you sending data to other agents or other services out there or specified services. So I think I'm going to throw out one more thing here. Have you heard of a company called Barn Door AI, Tommy?
Barn Door AI. I don't think I have.
Someone brought this up to me, and I thought this was really interesting. So just imagine, we're going to riff on this Copilot thing for just a bit here because we got some time today. Barn Door AI, and I'll put the link here in the chat window as well, just for those who are interested in learning a little bit more about it. This is an AI service that's kind of doesn't scrape, but it goes across all of your AI agents. And so for each agent, there are things you may or may not want those things to do. There are different agents you may want them to be using and not using. So there's basically not all agents are created equal. This is a service that companies can now put in place. It's not AI. It's a service in front of the AI that helps users understand which AIs they're supposed to be using, which ones they're not using.
Interesting.
Approved by your company, which ones are not approved. So you have all these things like you have people, you have actions, you have agents, you have different services like Google Drive or Salesforce or whatever. And so you as an admin, right, you can kind of start not locking down, but just kind of like saying these are certified or approved ways. It's almost like adding process to how you use AI and agents. Again, I think this is really interesting. Very neat idea. And this was brought up to me. I thought, wow, this is a really kind of cool service where, you can use these different agents in these different services. You can turn on services that you want or not want. And then you could say, okay, this sales agent can, create folders, not create folders, delete things, or edit stuff or not edit stuff. You have all these different controls that you can do to help these agents work on different areas of your company. I think larger companies are going to need to have a feature like this. This is going to be something that I think will be more prevalent because there's just too much for people to get themselves in trouble with. Does that make sense?
No, I think this is one of the things that we're going to realize after it's too late, where how many agents and AIs and copilots and task flows and whatever models are actually going around, so that we have actually be able to scan. So if I were to put this in layman's terms, it's almost like the PBI scanner, but for your AI.
Yeah, it's not scanning. It's not like after the fact, right? So this is more like proactive. Like, hey, these are the services. These are the kind of agents we're going to allow users to use. This is a way that you can hook into those agents, whether it's ChatGPT or Ep.4 Mini or whatever. But it's basically managing the relationship between I have an action, create a file. I have an agent such as ChatGPT, Ep.4 Mini or whatever, and then you have services. What can you do in the various services? So I think this is going to make a lot of sense in this MPC land where all these different MPCs can talk to these different services. They can do different things. So, you need to be able to say, look, I don't want people deleting things from this folder, right? This is like if you're in the legal space can't have people talking to an agent and having agents going into a various services and deleting files. There's like a hard requirement that is not allowed. So you can now start managing, still letting people use agents and AI things, but now you can govern kind of a bit more of what they can and cannot do. You can create files, you can copy them, but you shouldn't be able to delete them. So I think there's other aspects of this that are being considered here. And I like it. I thought it was a really neat idea.
Very nice.
Anyways. All right, Tommy, give us another news item. What else you got here for us?
All right. So some shortcut transformations. Actually, this is kind of neat. There's simply a new capability in Microsoft Fabric that simplifies the process of converting your raw files or CSV into Delta tables. And Mike, I'm trying to think of one of the other feature updates that Power BI came out with, that data flows are becoming CSV files, right?
There were originally in Dataflow Gen 1,
no,
everything was
no.
CSV
Remember
files.
the feature update that we had a hash on, where the new feature that Power BI is coming out is one of the outputs for Dataflow Gen 2, right?
Oh, is CSV files.
It is CSV file. So I guess you can use this and make a delta table, not knowing why you wouldn't do it. Anyways, if you have your normal CSV,
why you wouldn't just go right to a delta table, I don't have any clue.
I don't know.
Whatever.
The strangest thing.
I think this makes more sense in the realm of like you're being given CSV files from some sort of system, right? CSV files come out of all systems all the time. Like that, this makes sense to me that in that regard.
Oh, 1,000%. And so simply it just allows you to convert CSV files into delta tables in OneLake. They're working on a few really neat things like AI powered transformations, custom transformations using notebooks, and prompt-based transformations. And all you have to simply do is when you create a shortcut, you're creating that live reference, wherever that data may live. And then you can apply a transformation layer to that shortcut. Again, not to the CSV file.
Yes.
So it's as easy as simply going to create a new shortcut, choose your CSV file, and then one of the notes, all the files for transform need to be in the same folder. So we can't do nested folders.
Sure. For now, right? That seems like a logical something that would eventually happen later on. So Tommy, this is interesting to me. Help me understand some of this feature from your perspective. Does this thing live? Have you played with this feature? Have you been able to touch it at all and use it?
I have not played with this completely yet. Yeah.
So this is really, let me just say, this is a very big differential from where I think we've been. Typically, anytime you want to do any transformation of data, it was with a pipeline, a notebook, and maybe a Dataflow Gen 2. Those are the only three options you really had for data transformation. This is really interesting to me because this is exclusively coming from the Lakehouse. I'm just gonna hang on that moment because I love the idea of this because this means I don't need to spin up a virtual instance of something in a pipeline, right? So when a pipeline turns on, a runtime is turned on, it tracks the pipeline while things are being done. And again, it's fairly efficient. It's pretty cheap. But if you're just taking a CSV file and just want to make it a delta table, or let's just imagine, Tommy, you're bringing in a CSV file or you're updating a CSV file over and over again. It says this is going to try to keep it in sync as well. So if the CSV files change, I'm assuming that at some point the Lakehouse will say, hey, this file is now different. I now need to go create a new version of this delta table on some sort of schedule or some sort of detection. Hey, this file needs to be processed. Let's process this file. This file then turns into a new version of that delta table. I'm really excited to hear this. And I'm very excited to see how this is going to kind of continue to play out. And I really like this idea though. I like not having to have a whole bunch of extra tools in place to get this to work.
Yeah, I think the simpler we get to all those CSV files. Now I'm trying to take a look at this and the source type. I don't know if it supports like OneLake local files. All I saw so far was Azure Data Lake, Amazon S3. I'm assuming it should support OneLake.
It says OneLake. So in the managing of the shortcut, the image they put in the blog post is talking about customer support calls. It's the data type Delta, and their target path was files/customer support calls, which I believe is coming from OneLake. So I think you can source a file in the files area. So this is how I would use this feature, right? My feature would be put a bunch of CSV files in the OneLake in a files folder.
Right.
From there, point to the shortcut. Make the shortcut go back to the tables area, and then the tables now just become a table that materializes that shortcut, and it just automatically keeps itself up to date. As I add new files, it'll automatically update itself. Now, what I don't know here is so let me just bear with me here, Tommy, right? One thing I have to play with here a bit to understand what's going on is what happens if I have many of the same files in the same folder? Like, I'm adding net new data. I'm adding more information to what's going to be placed in that folder. Does that mean is it going to take all the files and append them together to make one big delta table? So if I add a new file, it's just going to append that data. I think that's how I would interpret the function to work. Is that how you read this, Tommy?
So to me, I'm seeing this as you choose the CSV files, and each CSV file is going to be, you may be able to choose to append it, but it looks like they're all individual, which wouldn't make any sense.
So you're saying, well, so here, this is what it's saying. It's always in sync. And this is the point number 3 that I was looking at here, right? There's no need to schedule refreshes. Awesome. Love that. The shortcut transformation engine continuously monitors the source location for changes. Every time a new file is added to the source path, meaning not the actual file, but the path above it, the folder. So basically, Tommy, to what you're saying, like, look, you can point to a folder and everything in the folder is automatically picked up and processed. And then modified files are processed and reflected the latest data. And then any deleted files then are removed from the Delta table output. So my thinking here is, again, I'm thinking in how I typically get data from a system, right? I'm going to get, every day or once a week, I'm going to get an extraction of a CSV file. I'll just put the file in the folder location, and every single file that's in there, it's going to automatically view all those files and say, okay, let's just turn all these things into one big table. And then once it's a Delta table, and I'm happy, right? It just works. So I'll need some lineage on this and some tracking to know when the last update occurred. And I hope there's some metrics that are coming out of this that it gives a little bit of an output that says, hey, we processed your CSV shortcut file. Here's the files that were used. That would be helpful. I don't know if we're going to get that, but I need to play with this feature. Is this feature officially out, Tommy? Have you seen it on the service?
This feature is officially ready to go. You can start trying it today.
Oh, there it says try it out today. Okay, awesome. I love this feature. I think this is really nice. I do wish, again, I'm guessing here because this just came out, it probably doesn't have any kind of tracking yet, but we'll have to kind of push for that a little bit as well. All right, Tommy, what other topics do you have here?
One data agent, baby. So a pretty cool data agent. So we know data agents are something that's trying to be the copilot throughout our Fabric ecosystem. And they are continuing to get more and more necessary features, not just cool features, but I think fundamental features. So one of the big things that is now available is Fabric data agents now have data source instructions, which is really good because you have your general default instructions for a data agent in your rules. Mm-hmm. But it was really hard, especially if you had different data sources, on the guidance on which tables, how to interact with each data set. So now we can basically give a blueprint for each of your data sources to say what to prioritize in that data set, what to filter, how to join. This kind of goes off of Chris Webb's blog articles that he was saying how to really talk to Copilot. The data agent, we can make sure that can take care of that work through these system instructions. So each data source has its own instructions field.
Okay.
So again, I think this is fundamental. These are one of the things that make data agents either a deal breaker or non-starter. We need more kind of these instructions too, because right now the data agent's kind of just a chat UI. But the fact that I can add these instructions, I would still like some ability to wait and actually kind of like the Power BI prep with AI, where it can choose those columns and tables, and also even weight things to say, this is weighted higher, this is weighted lower. But this is a good start. So the only problem with everything just being a prompt or system instruction, especially when we're dealing with intricate data sources, is you have to add a lot of instruction to make sure it gets it right. For example, is saying, what should you include? And it's like, well, when asked about historical sales, use the orders using order date. Always join sales with products and product ID. So you almost have to map out your entire schema here, which I don't like, because again, it doesn't really have any of that metadata of the source. Maybe you're dealing with a lakehouse, that maybe not a semantic model. So you can add a few instructions, but that's probably not going to help compared to having a little more configuration.
That's interesting that you're talking that way, Tony. So I like what you're going with this one. This makes me think that you need additional. So let me unpack this a little bit, what you're saying here, right? There's in the semantic model, we have a nice good amount of metadata that goes along with the semantic model, right? You can go into the semantic model, you can add comments or descriptions. And so the AI agents now seem to be, they're applying a bit more information. Like the agents can scrape that information back out and use that as context for what users are asking about the semantic model. I think to your point, Tommy, though, there's really not a lot. Like, where does the metadata live for lake houses or a SQL data warehouse or the SQL analytics endpoint? Like, there's nothing. You're not able to actually add the context. I mean, in the SQL server, you could probably add relationships between tables. I don't know if the agent will be able to pick up on that, but you're not writing descriptions per column that I'm aware of. Exactly. Right? That's not there.
Nope.
You're not writing measures in the SQL database, so there's nothing there to add context around that. So it feels to me like of the things that I'm going to be able to pull into agents, yes, I could have you point at a lakehouse table because yes, why not? Why not use it? Like you should be able to use it, right? But there's not going to be any metadata about that. And I think what you're describing, Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong, is for these different sources, things that come out of a lakehouse, things that come out of SQL databases, you have to write a lot of instructions against those to really describe what the data is doing, so the agent is smarter about those things.
Exactly.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, no, 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't. I have a. In general, this is my general comment. In general, I have resistance to all this writing more text to tell the agent what's going on, right? I think some of this, there's a thought around like you just kind of want it to work and figure itself out. Sometimes I feel like I'm doing more typing to get the code. Like maybe this isn't the wrong way of saying this one. I don't know how to say this articulately. Right? I'm talking to the agent. I feel like I'm writing more words to the agent to write one line of code or get an answer back than what it would have been if I just knew how to get the answer back. If I just knew how to write the code, I just would write it. So on some level, I feel it's a bit redundant for me to spend all this time adding additional context and words and all this extra stuff. And then this is kind of maybe where I'm having the rub here, Tommy. Like, where's the benefit? Like, for me personally, if I'm using this model or I'm building an agent for just me, I'm not sure it's worth it for the time investment and all the extra things we have to do. It's not ideal. Flip side of that, if I'm giving this agent out to 100 people, my team of 1,000, putting it in a published app on top of certified data, okay, now I think that lemon might be worth the squeeze. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
Well, I mean, you're kind of talking about the data agents version 1, where it's basically write a SQL statement and that's what we're going to convert for your data agent, which didn't work. So now we're going the opposite way, where we're trying to do everything is this nice, easy text prompt. Here's the thing though, when you're dealing with agents like this, and really any custom GPT or custom chat, right? You kind of define a few things. You have your system instructions, but you also have a few things that are known as tools or skills that you've kind of given it as well, which I would like to see, where it's like, hey, you have, a lake house marketing skill that has the ability to go and basically it can either read JSON for instructions or kind of the metadata. It could be a Python package or a Python script that you write that could do whatever, but you kind of tell what tools or skills it has. So these data source instructions are fine, but here's the thing though. Everything that we're using with our AI tooling right now on the back end is something Python or is something coding. And I think with the data agent, it's nice that we have the data agent and we have this nice UI that no one has to worry about coding.
Yes.
But can I click on the wrench symbol and go to the back end, please? Because I think that's just integral, because you're not going to accomplish what you want to do.
I think it's hard for them to give you that wrench and go to the back end and do all the things. I mean, that's super technical all of a sudden. We're going from like people who are coming from Power BI and a lot of like UI driven screens into, okay, now you have to figure out how to learn agents. It feels like there's so much there that's like, oh, it's just, I feel like we're diving into the deep end yet. We're not quite there yet. They're doing a good job. I like where we're going with this. It just feels like we're just so far away from really doing getting this corrected. Anyways, that's just maybe my opinion. Anyways, Any other thoughts on this agent thing?
I think that's a good start. I think it's time, my friend, to kind of go through all the let's go through some of the major updates here.
Okay, so we're going to kind of transition here. We are going to move into more of a draft mode here. So we've done this a couple times. There's a lot of features coming out every so often from Microsoft. We're going to go into draft mode. Tommy's going to pick his favorite pick from either the Microsoft or the Fabric blog, and kind of we'll talk about it, we'll riff on it for a bit, and then I'll pick one of my favorite features. We'll do like a draft pick and kind of volley back and forth here. Tommy, do you want to go first with your first pick for the draft?
You know what? I feel like I always go first. I'm going to let you pick the first one here.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to go pick one from, I believe it's from the Fabric blog. Again, the Fabric space is I do a lot of stuff inside Fabric in general already. So let me pick one from there. And one thing I will point out here. Sadly, Tommy, did you see one of the announcements inside the Fabric blog? I think maybe it was the Power BI blog. I don't remember which one it was. Did you see the sad announcement that we had?
Is it sad about the 10 years, or is it something about something becoming GA?
It was something about something being released. I think it was on the Power BI blog. I'll see if you can figure out which one. Let's see how well you know me, Tommy.
Is it from the June update, the June feature summary?
From the Power BI blog, there's something in there that was very disappointing.
Oh,
if you
really?
can pick up on it. Yeah.
Power query in the web for import models. Let's go see if I can find this. I'll
okay.
As soon as I see it.
You actually have to read the blog in order to know which feature it was. But you said it. If you saw in the Power BI blog, there is an update on the Power Query inside the web for modeling, and it was sad because you just said we know you're long awaiting Power Query editing for web. We had some blockers, and they're not able to release it till July. So they're pushing the ship back for a little bit. So you were right. It was the feature. You read it out. You read it out loud. You said, well, the top header of the page doesn't really give you indication that it's been pushed to next month. But I was very excited. I was actually waiting for Power Query editing for web to show up. I kept going, where's the button? Did I not get the release yet? Is it not happening yet? So I kept looking for the button. It was not there. And then, I didn't catch that one until later. So anyways, let me give you my first pick. I think I'm really excited about, so they announced this a while ago. This has been out for a while, or they're trying to get this out. I am very excited about materialized views. I think this is going to really change how I'm going to build things. So it is in preview. You can use a materialized lake views. And if you want, I'll go find the video. There's a video on our YouTube channel where I work with the PM who built the feature for materialized lake views. We did a full hour on just like how they're supposed to work and how all the features there. So that's something that we did a demo directly out of the FabCon in Las Vegas to just show people like these things are coming. I'm very excited about this. I'm really excited for this feature to come out. It's going to allow it fits this vibe of we're going to bring a lot of data to the lakehouse, and the lakehouse will just kind of keep things up to date for you. I'm not building a pipeline. I'm not doing extra things. I'm defining bronze, silver, and gold level tables all in one place. So that's kind of fun. So anyway, I wanted to kind of call that out there.
That's a solid one. I mean, honestly, would you put this yet as potentially a game changer, or in that thing? Is it a potential game changer right now?
I'm going to say it will definitely change how I build stuff. So this is a fundamental shift of what I will do when I bring data to the lakehouse. And so let me give you some context here. This is a very similar feature to what Databricks does inside Delta Live Tables. Delta Live Tables allows you to define loading data in, and then once that data gets changed downstream, there's like a dependency tree of the bronze table modifies this silver table, this silver table models a gold table. So there's always kind of like steps to process the data, but then you have to build all these pipelines. And what I've done in the past is I've had to like make a whole bunch of notebooks and run a pipeline and organize all the information. I don't want to do that, honestly. I just want to say, this is the source table. These are the transformations I want to mess around with. And here's my final table. And then when the new data comes in, Microsoft, just be smart enough to know how to run the tables and process the data. So like to me, I look at it going like, I think the system should be smart enough to just figure this stuff out. Like that's very complex. Microsoft, by you making this easier for me to work with it, I will use it more, right? That it's literally simplifying my time. Anyways.
Oh, that's a good one. That's
what I really like this Materialized view thing. And so stay tuned. There's going to be more probably tutorials and blogs around doing Materialized views.
Well,
All right, Tommy,
my friend,
over to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go to the Power BI blog, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to announce something and give a shout out for something that's now GA. And guess what, my friend? Sparklines are now generally available. They've been in preview for almost 4 years, since December of 2021, and they are now generally available. So calculation group selections will be applied. You can use them with both on individual values. So there's a ton you can do with calculation groups, but they're now GA. So now you can use them in production. Congratulations.
Nice.
So
this is off of the Power BI blog, correct?
Power BI blog, yeah.
Do you use Sparklines inside your reports today, Tommy?
No, somewhat. So I tend to find them good as a starter point for tables for if I'm working with a new project or a new report, especially if it's a migration from Excel.
Okay.
Me personally, it's not a kind of like a fundamental tool of all my reports, but I do know people who swear by them.
Yeah. There's also, I think I saw another post by Data Goblins, Kurt Bueller, talking about SVG measures and things becoming like kind of hitting critical mass. I don't know if anyone else saw that article. So I don't know it. So Kurt, I know sometimes you listen to these and sometimes you don't, but Kurt, it's hard to find where your content goes anymore. I don't know where your content goes. Before I could just go to Data Goblins and it was always there. I feel like it's all over the place now. I wish you had like a better way of consolidating your work because it's much more different to find where you're posting things, Kurt. Anyways, that being said, the article he wrote was, I don't know how I feel about this. I like the idea that we can use SVG and Sparklines and things on top of all these different places, right? It makes sense. These are some of the creature comforts that we need to have when we're doing visualizations. 100% agree with this. There's no question in my mind. These things need to exist. How it is implemented and how easy it is to figure out how to make the SVG do its job, not easy.
No way.
I'm gonna pick on the team on this one a little bit, and I'm sorry, Microsoft. This is, in my opinion, this is a major miss. Where is the global or enterprise collection of measures? Right? How can we pull a library of measures into my models? We can do some things with PBIP now. We can do some things here and there, but like Microsoft, you did such a good job with creating quick calculations or quick measures. The quick measures was genius. Hey, from the semantic model, grab these different data fields, and oh, by the way, we will auto build you like a set chunk of DAX. Love it. Great. No new features were added. No one could contribute from the community. Where's the central library for my organization to build all these things? Like, I'm not going to... Man, it just bothers me. I love the fact that we can do it, but I hate the fact that I can't use a central library around all this stuff. It's so frustrating to me. There's really smart people that are building these things, and I can't use them because I had to spend a whole bunch of time learning what they did, getting the DAX right, and bringing it in. That should not be a thing. And I don't want to write, I'm sorry, I don't want to use Tabular Editor, writing a bunch of C# to bring in a bunch of measures. Sorry, that's not going to float for me. I need it to be in a UI. I need to be built into the tool, and I need to have a library of things that I just point to, and it just works.
Well, more importantly, that's just you want something saved.
It's a major miss. It's a major miss, in my opinion.
So here's the thing, and you kind of already solved this. What was the tool? It was called DAX, not DAX do, but you had that DAX variable. Use Power BI Helper also was a big part of that.
Yeah,
or the side tools. And here the thing is, this has already been solved because this idea of report level measures.
We have DAX.power. we have DAX.Power tips, which was a very rough tool. And again, I'll just point it out there for Tommy. So thank you for the call out.
Yes.
DAX.Power tips was an early version of a tool that would write a DAX statement. You could take an existing DAX statement and parameterize it with different like functions and other things as well. So that is a tool that lets you build a JSON object that can define a measure and you can inject it into your model, right? So you could actually have a library of measures that were parameterized almost like quick measures, but you can just drop them into the model. Like to me, that makes sense. And it should have a bunch of other stuff too, Tommy. Like it should be like, hey, this measure goes in this folder. Hey, this measure has a description. Do you want us to auto give you the description? Like here's a base description of what this measure does. Dude, all this stuff should be like built into a library. Why can't I get that? Where's the library of this stuff?
And I think the biggest thing too, this is report level measures, while they're not shared across models, the formulas are, right? And that's the biggest thing is like, all I just need to plug in is a measure or a table, but the formula for displaying this or what the text is or the CSV or CSG, that stays the same, except for the measure I want to change and the table I want to change. And I use the side tools with your DAX.Power tips, and I was able to inject things into the model, go through the community, and I had my own kind of repository of, alerts, whatever, all these visual-based report measures. But the thing is, that was just for me. That was only shared with me, and it was I don't want to say convoluted, but it was wonky. It wasn't the best UI. I do agree with you with the tablet editor tools, because that's not meant for kind of that other layer of my report design across my environment. That's meant for a semantic model. And I think there is this difference between having these universal report formulas and things that are really defined just on the semantic model. Yeah, man. I mean, it is a tough one, especially when you're dealing with some of the features that are stuck in Power BI, like the like the spark lines, where it's like, it's neat, but it's limited.
Yeah. So that's yes. This is kind of where I'm at with this feature. Like I love the fact that it's there. It just SVG's things are great. Spark lines are awesome. You got to have them. People are always going to want to customize them. And another one here I'm going to rag on a little bit as well. The visual measures are great to put spark lines on, or SVG things, right? I don't want to run a measure against the entire model. I want the measure to run after the model is already, so the visual should return the small subset of data for the visual. And then from that, then maybe I want to use some spark lines or some features inside the visual. So I think visual calcs is a great place to put SVG type stuff. But again, it's too difficult to make it all work. You got to be like really codey technical expert to get all this to work. Where's my library? How do we make this easy for my team to just, hey, look, Tommy's the expert in SVG stuff. He's going to build a whole bunch of really neat looking things.
Yeah.
Where's the library of acceptable stuff you should be using in visuals? That's the kind of things we should be working on. Anyways.
Oh man, I had to light you off. All right, my friend. Well, it's back to you somehow.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go from other features here. I think I'm going to preface my next pick based on what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing a lot of right now is working with organizations and helping them work with continuous integration, continuous deployment. And I'm doing a lot more of DevOps, which is a bigger topic. We talked a little bit about the last couple of weeks with Matthias around what is DevOps, how does it work, how do you bring that into your bringing it in. So I'm very much on the opinion that the variable libraries is going to be quite a major.
So that's what I was looking at too. So
it's an assistance tool that you need to use for to help you build different environments, right? So let me. I'm going to very much preface my comment here, right? In DevOps, there's a lot of different things. It's a process that people follow to help you build something, whatever that thing is. Apps, data, BI reports, doesn't matter. It's a process. The tooling, which is CI/CD, kind of more closely tied to the technical solution, helps you with part of the DevOps. So I see that continuous integration, continuous deployment is part of the broader DevOps story, which I think people have a misnomer around this. They think that CI/CD is DevOps. I don't think that's true. I think DevOps is a much broader story. So the notebook integration with variable libraries is very much welcome. The more things that I can build inside my pipeline using deployment pipelines, using variable libraries, I think the better I'll be, because I shouldn't be hard coding notebooks and connections and things to my notebook. It needs to be flexible because the names of the lakehouses, the different objects across my environment will change. And this is going to go real technical here. The GUIDs that define each object in every single workspace are different per environment or workspace. So in a deployment pipeline, if you have a lake house named Tommy's Great Lake, and he moves it from dev to test to prod, there are three separate lake houses in different environments, and they all have different GUIDs. So if I have a notebook that's talking to that thing and I've attached a data notebook to it, we need to identify, okay, what is the GUID of that Great Lake thing, and know that we're going to modify it and move it to the next environment or forward. So I think what happens here is we now have the ability, by using variable libraries, to make that a lot more programmable. We have more ability to switch things in real time, and you're not hard coding the variables in the environment for all the things. I think this is a major win. I'm happy to see that Notebooks is coming to play the game now, but we'll see where this goes. Anyways, for me, this is a friction point that I've had for a number of years. It's difficult. It's hard to work with. I feel like this eases some of my pain.
Very nice. No, I think the variables outside of just even your CI/CD, I love what they've done with environments and having that on your workspace and how you can configure that with your own packages. This is just an advancement on that as well. So see, this is the thing. Why do we have all these great config features that are what you would expect in a normal Spark environment with your notebooks, with the environment, with which version you're running, to your custom packages, whatever packages you want. But this is where that AI data agents, I'm like, I don't think we're there where there's that set structure yet, because they've really given you so far. And Mike, tell me what else is missing in terms of kind of configuring your environment or customizing your workspace with your environment, with the Spark instance. You kind of have a lot of the features that you would expect to have.
I'm not sure if I follow.
So
what do you
right
mean?
now,
What
I
do you
can
mean by
create
that?
my own environment in a workspace, and I can add packages. I can choose which Spark instance, 1.1,
Sure.
2, 3. I can add a ton of those features, which there's like 5,000 of them.
Okay.
Enable this, and that's all things you would expect to have when I create my environment. Is there anything in terms of that they're still skimping out on when it comes to what you expect to your own custom environment? Because it seems like it's pretty comprehensive.
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I don't.
All right.
I don't know that I answer that question. I use as much of the standard stuff as I possibly can. So here's what I've observed. Right. I don't customize a lot of environments. The only thing right now that I customize heavily is the ability to use the automatic accelerator for the Spark engine. So you can turn on the native execution engine. That's the thing you need to turn on. Right now, it's not on by default. It's currently an option. You have to turn that on in order for your Spark cluster to run faster. And what it does is it runs some of your Spark in, I think it's like .NET or C# or something more fast, and it speeds up things a lot. So it takes some of the Java away from the process and writes it in a different language. It just goes faster. So that's one thing that I will use. Outside of that, I very rarely use other packages, because I have found anytime I add other packages to a notebook or the runtime of the Spark engine, it immediately slows it down and makes it slow to run. And so I also don't want to have to manage that environment across multiple, call it deployment zones, deployment environments, right? I don't have to manage that environment against dev, test, and prod unless there's something very specific that I want to do. So I like using the off-the-shelf stuff as much as possible because I feel like it runs faster. That's just my opinion. I know that You have to do it. So there's a question here from Kratos. Yeah, you have. So Kratos, it is off by default. The native execution runtime is not on by default. If you want the entire notebook or everything on that cluster run with the native exexecution engine, and you
on
and
1.3 it was enabled, but
you can use it, but it's not enabled by default. You have to change the environment. I was on a live stream with a PM for it. The name is escaping me at this point. But he was telling me in the future, it will be on by default. It will be on. And also, there are shortcut commands. If you want to turn on the native execution engine for a single cell inside a notebook, you can turn on the native execution engine for a single cell, let it run in that cell, and then in the subsequent cell, you could turn it back off. So there is the ability for you to toggle this on inside the notebooks, but you have to write the line of code every single time you do it. And kind of makes sense to do a variable setting because it just turns on. So yes, it is a requirement, but it will become a default option, hopefully in the future. And I've been told from the Spark team that it's going to be getting there. And I love, to me, the data engineering side of things. Microsoft is doing a killer job here. They're taking a lot of complex things and I think making them pretty simple. All right, Tommy, I think I talked about integration of variable notebooks. I think we're back over to you for your maybe final pick because we're actually at time.
And I was kind of struggling on which one to pick here, but so I'm going to go a bit dev, a bit nerdy, but I think it went under the radar. But to me, this is going to alleviate a lot of pain. This is in the Power BI update blog. Power BI PBIP public JSON schemas. So someone would be asking, what's a JSON schema? Simply put, JSON schema is something that you can plug into if you're typing in a bunch of JSON, or if you have format like your Power BI project and you're not sure of the syntax. Well, you could use Copilot, but the schema is something would validate to say, oh, you can't add that key. That key is not a thing that actually exists here. There is no such thing as layout optimization in this particular place. This is wrong. So you could, and that's a great way, especially in a tool like VS Code, we're going, okay, I have an extensions, but this actually really will give you auto suggest, but also will kind of give you that error. It almost looks like a spelling error in VS Code, where it's like, hey, this is not something that actually you can do here. And for me, I've not converted things, but whatever reason, going from the remote to my computer and looking at it that way, it kind of just changed the syntax a little. A new layout optimization key showed up in my reports, couldn't open the report. And it was like, okay, that's strange. And went to the VS Code, didn't say anything was wrong. So this is great now. So we can actually just feed that in where in your definition.pbir, you just simply add in the URL to the schema and you're going to be on your way. So again, to me, alleviate a lot of pain here.
Okay, good. I want to also jump on this one as well, Tommy. You picked on something that caused a lot of pain for my tool. So Tommy and the community here knows I have made the my team, not really me, I've kind of visioned it, but my team has really developed it here. We have, I would say, probably the most robust theme generation, report creation tool that's out there that's outside of desktop. We have a wireframing system, we have coloring, we have all the theming properties of the tool. And this actually started out as just a side pet project. I was annoyed with the JSON color themes, and I built a little tiny color picker. And from there, it kind of evolved into this massive tool that lets you pick colors and themes and properties on visuals and things. So your public JSON schema inside the file definition of the PBIR files broke everything. That little thing called $schema was required. So if you are, so let me just, another word of caution for those of you who are building theme files or mucking with these files separately. If you have an old version, if the schema does not exist, desktop will throw a fit at you.
Yes.
So
my goodness,
that little schema note is required. So previously it was like an optional. You could put it in and it wasn't hard. It wasn't required to be in the file format. Something changed in Microsoft in June that required the schema to be part of the solution. It has to be in the file. And you cannot have a PBIX or PBIP formatted project anymore without the schema being attached to it.
I didn't even know
our
that.
tool,
wow.
right? So our tool that was building PBIP files from scratch, which is what our tool does. We build a PBIP file from scratch, literally writing the code to make the file. We didn't include it because it was an optional. And again, the evolution of the schema wasn't there. So we ran into a massive issue. All of a sudden everyone's like, I can't open my files. It's broken. What's going on? And so we had to like quickly turn around and say, okay, we need to figure out what the problem was. And it was the schema file. And it's not, one thing I'll note here is that it's not in this one file. So the file they show you here in the screenshot on the blog is they're talking about the sales.report. And they're looking at the definition.pbir file. The definition.pbir is one of many files that are in the report side because each visual gets a file, each page gets a file. There's a lot of other files now that are used to generate the report. And because of that, every single file needs a new schema. Oh, and by the way, each schema is slightly different. So you actually see that there's different versions. Some of them are on version 1.0. Some of them are on version 2.0. Some of them are on 2.1. Great. Love the fact that that's there. But now you have a whole collection of files that are in different states of versioning, and you need to track all that, which is, again, maybe one of more of my points here is if you're getting to the PBIP format, you're going to need some sort of tooling to help you kind of manage it.
So, Mike, we're trying to get to the masses. We just talked to Matthias about CI/CD and source control. All of a sudden, now you're telling people that they have to worry about schemas and the right version. Holy crap! Like, so I know your tool had to get updated, but I mean, for a lot of users too, unless they don't update, if they don't update their Git, they update Power BI, they'll have. This is a frustrating thing. Is like we're trying to introduce Git to the masses when it's not
in preview. I mean, it's okay.
Well, it's a user. It's not a hey, you learned Excel, great. Here, open up this Git folder. You'll understand it and you know what to open.
That's not the assumption, though. That's not what they're building. You're assuming that people are going to know how to use it. No, they're not. It's just a file format that's behind the scenes that just synchronizes with the Git, and it also just syncs with the workspace. Like that's all that most people are going to need. 90% of people are only going to need synchronize my workspace with Git. Done. Move on. The tooling that needs to exist for like experts to really jump in and really know all the little details, that's not quite there yet. It's getting there, and I'm seeing, again, this feature here is a great step towards improvement of that. We're getting there. It's getting better as we go. But what I will say, though, is it's not like, don't try to push on all these technical things onto normal people. It's not designed for them, and it's not good for them to know. The best thing people need to know is just push your files to powerbit.com, turn on Git syncing. That's all you need to do. 90% of the people will be happy with that experience. It works decently well. It's not perfect, but it works decently well. And it's better, I think that experience is better than sticking a bunch of things in SharePoint. My opinion. I think it's not a big deal.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end. Mike, you got anything else?
No, I do not. I think those are my main things there. I believe all those are the main key features and functions that have come out from the blog. Very happy about where we're at and where we've landed with a lot of different things. June was a pretty big update in my opinion. I think this was like, now that Fabric conference is over, there's a couple months before the Fabric conference Vienna, which typically Microsoft holds back a couple of features before the next big conference. So I would expect July to be a pretty decent release month. I think August might be a little bit short. There might not be a lot of things there because typically Microsoft holds back some features before they get to September, will be FabCon in Vienna. Which, speaking of, by the way, if you are planning on attending, or if you are a listener from Europe, I'll be going and speaking at FabCon Vienna. I got a speaking engagement there, so I'll be doing some speaking engagement in FabCon Vienna. So if you want to meet me there, make sure you go check out Fabric Conference in Europe. I think it's the European FabCon 2025. Check that out. We'll probably start putting out links here shortly, and we'd love to see you there. With that being said, Thank you all so much for listening to the podcast today. Hope you found some features here that we thought was valuable. Hopefully you find them valuable as well. If you also have features that we didn't mention that you think is worth a note, please let us know in the comments down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let us know you like this video, and that way it'll help the powers that be, the large language models, the AIs that are just roaming the internet, to know that this was a good video and other people should watch it as well. Thank you all so much. Please share it with somebody else. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. And share with a friend, since we do this for free. Do you have a question, idea, or a topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Well, head over to powerbi.tips/podcast, leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, in all of Power BI Tips social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.